Welcome aboard, little explorers and big thinkers. I am so glad you are here because today we are doing something truly big. I want you to close your eyes just for a second and imagine we are stepping onto the S Wonder, our magical ship of discovery. We are turning the dial on our time travel engine back and back and back. We are going to a time long before there were roads or houses or even people. A time when the earth was a wild, green, and very giant place. Are you ready to meet the biggest, heaviest, and tallest neighbors our planet has ever had? Then let's start the countdown from 10 to 1. Imagine you are walking through a damp, foggy forest about 300 million years ago. You look down and you see something moving in the leaves. It looks like a millipede, those little bugs that curl into a ball. But this one is different. At number 10, we meet Arthropleura. Imagine this bug is not an inch long, but as long as a family car. It is shiny. It has hundreds of legs, and it is wider than a sidewalk. As it crawls past you, its body makes a scuttling sound, like dry leaves crunching. It isn't scary because it only likes to eat plants and rotten wood. But imagine a bug as big as a car. Can you imagine trying to find a shoe for every one of those feet? Now, look up into the sky, above the giant ferns. At number 9, we see Meganeura. It looks like a dragonfly, but it is the size of a soaring eagle. Its wings are almost 3 feet across. That is as wide as your front door. Imagine the sound of its wings. A loud and deep thrumming buzz, like a giant prehistoric helicopter zooming over the water. It is a beautiful, shimmering blue and green, catching the sunlight as it hunts for smaller bugs. But hold on tight, because we are diving into the deep, dark ocean. At number 8, we meet the king of the sea, the megalodon. Imagine a shark, but don't think of a little shark, think of a school bus. A megalodon was as long as 2 school buses parked end to end. Its mouth was so big, 2 grown-up humans could stand inside it, side by side, without even touching the teeth. And those teeth, they were bigger than your entire hand. Imagine the shadow this giant made as it swam through the blue water. A silent, massive, underwater mountain of a fish. Let's step back onto the land. But watch where you walk, because the grass is moving. At number 7, we find the titanoboa. Imagine a snake, not a tiny garden snake, but a snake as long as a city bus. It was as thick as a giant tractor tire. If it slithered past your house, its head would be at the front door while its tail was still in the backyard. It lived in hot, steamy jungles, hiding in the water like a giant, scaly log. It was the biggest snake to ever wiggle across the earth. Now, look up at the cliffs. Something is standing there, and it's very, very tall. At number 6, we meet Quetzalcoatlus. This was a flying reptile, but when it stood on the ground, it was as tall as a giraffe. Imagine that, a creature that could look into a second-story bedroom window just by standing on its tippy toes. Its wings were as wide as a small airplane. Imagine it taking off, a giant shadow crossing the ground, and then whoosh! The wind from its wings would feel like a huge fan blowing on your face. It didn't have feathers. It had soft, fuzzy fur and a beak as long as a person. It was a true giant of the clouds. But the land had even heavier surprises. Let's move to number 5. Meet the Paraceratherium. It looks like a rhinoceros, but it doesn't have a horn, and it has a very long neck. It was the biggest land mammal to ever live. Imagine a rhino, but it's as tall as a house. It could reach up and eat the leaves from the very top of the trees, just like a giraffe. But it weighed as much as 5 big elephants. Its feet were as round as dinner tables, and every time it took a step, the ground would go thump, thump, thump. Now, let's head to the river, where the water is splashing. At number 4, we see the Spinosaurus. This dinosaur was even longer than the famous T-Rex. It had a giant sail on its back, made of bone and skin that looked like a giant purple and red fan. Imagine a dinosaur with a face like a crocodile, standing taller than a moving truck. It was a master of the water, swimming with its powerful tail and catching giant fish with its long, sharp claws. Imagine seeing that giant sail peeking out of the river like a shark, but much, much bigger. We are getting closer to the biggest of them all. Are you ready? At number 3, we find the Argentinosaurus. This is one of the heaviest animals to ever walk on 4 legs. Imagine 20 elephants all piled together, and that is how much this one dinosaur weighed. One single bone in its back was as big as a person. When it walked, the trees would shake, and the birds would fly away in a panic. It was a gentle giant, eating tons and tons of leaves every single day just to keep its big belly full. But wait, there is another long-necked giant nearby. At number 2, we meet the Patagotitan. This dinosaur was so long, it was like a living, breathing bridge. Imagine a dinosaur that is 120 feet long. If it stood on a football field, its tail would be at one end, and its head would be almost at the middle. It was as long as 3 large trailers. Imagine trying to wash a dinosaur that big. You would need a very, very long ladder and a lot of soap. Its neck was so long it could reach across a river to eat a snack on the other side. And now we have reached the end of our countdown. But the number 1 giant might surprise you. At number 1, we have the blue whale. Wait, did you know that the blue whale is actually bigger than almost every dinosaur we just talked about? And the most amazing part is the blue whale is alive right now. It is the biggest animal that has ever lived in the history of the entire world. Imagine a heart the size of a bumper car and a tongue that weighs as much as an entire elephant. Its whistle is louder than a jet engine, and it can hear its friends from hundreds of miles away. Even though we call them ancient giants, the biggest giant of all is swimming in our oceans today. Doesn't that make the world feel like a magical place? We have traveled through time, from bugs as big as cars to whales as big as space rockets. The earth has always been full of wonder, and it still is today. I want you to think about something. If you could have any of these ancient giants as a neighbor, which one would you pick? And what would you name it? Talk about it with your family. And imagine what your backyard would look like with a dinosaur peeking over the fence. Thank you for exploring with me today on the SS Wonder. I can't wait for our next adventure. Listen more, imagine more, learn more,